What up? We're back for another tournament that Scotty Scheffler's going to win. I'm here with my boys, Miss Snyder and Bryce Morrow. Snyder and Third and Schlong, how you boys doing? Well, first I'll go to Schlong because he's got to be very happy with the way his soccer team performed today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love tons of sports teams anymore, like after playing DFS professionally for so many years. And soccer is like kind of a sport that I play every now and then on DraftKings, but like it's more for fun than anything else. So like I feel like I can like really enjoy a team, and Tottenham is like my favorite sports team in the world, like by far. For those of you who don't know, they're known for bottling pretty much any big game and just completely fucking it up. They have won a trophy in any sport in 17 years, and they beat Manchester United today to win the Europa, which is one step below the Champions League. So they'll be in the Champions League next year. So I don't know. It felt like it was a long time coming. Not to get into too much footy talk here, but I mean, it was just great to see those pricks United lose. I mean, Manchester, the team that beats like the Yankees pretty much like of soccer. So yeah, it feels really good.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah. They were up 1-0 like most of the game, and I really felt that it was going to get tied 1-1, and they just made some really good like defensive plays and saves, which you don't expect them to do because they're not that's not like their game. So that was a great win. Hopefully it gives us some momentum going into the golf week.
Snyder, how we doing? How about that Nebraska win, by the way, last night?
Yeah, I seen that. That was a crazy game. Good for them.
Top fly ball.
Yeah, dude just dropped that line drive or fly ball to him. But yeah, excited to jump into this. DFS for me last week was not the best, but Corey Connors shot like 3 or 4 under on Sunday to get inside the top 40. I had a big bet on him, and then I bet pretty big on Scotty Friday night at like plus 240 or 260 or something. So ended up with a slight profit, but ready to jump into this one this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a fan of this tournament. I like this tournament because it's a tournament that would be shitty, but there are so many good people that are members at the course or play it consistently. They want to come in and play, so it ends up not being as bad as you would typically expect. So why don't we just go ahead and start with what we're going to do with Scotty? Like, I feel like let's get that out of the way, and then we move to the next range. So Snyder, what are you doing with Scheffler?
I'm going to play him on every team, and that's about it.
Right?
I think that makes this show a lot less interesting and a lot easier. I'm locking Scotty as well. I think Mark might be along those lines based on what he said in Discord today. You don't really see odds like this very often. I mean, plus 225, you're basically betting that he wins or that someone else up top doesn't win, because like he could finish second if it's not like an impossible pairing to get with him. So like people will look at it and be like, oh, he's plus 220 to win. Like I'll play him in like a third of my teams or whatever, because he has to win. He doesn't have to win. It just has to be someone else who's not expensive.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, that in addition to he could come in even lower if like multiple like total drag get in there. Like, so like if you get guys like Jackson Suber, Rafael Campos that end up in the top 10, 20, like he could even come in like 5th and be optimal. So I think there's way too many outs for him to be optimal to not play him at least 50. Like I'm playing him 50 to 60. I think that's about the right number. Locking him is probably the right thing to do in high stakes because I think that's what everybody else is going to do. So, I think you just lock him and then think about how to construct the rest of the team. So that moves us into the next segment of players. So we'll go from Tommy Fleetwood 10K down to Keith Mitchell at 9. Bryce, how are you playing these guys? Who's the best? And do you really get any of them, considering how much Scheffler you're playing.
If you really want to force like stars and scrubs, you can get this range. It's not my favorite thing to do. On another site, or if people aren't locking Scheffler, like it's I'll talk about the range as if like I kind of wasn't locking Scheffler, I guess. Like I think Berger's the best play here. He's a little hard to get to with Sheff. I think Spieth's a decent alternative. Like if you guys are looking to get non-Scheffler teams, those would be my favorite two. But if you're playing Scheffler, my favorite part of the range is going to be the cheap part, because that's the part like you can realistically get to and still form a team. Like I don't think that Harris English and Aaron Rye are much worse than like the top couple guys here. So those are kind of my guys in the range, but it's a range I'm almost entirely fading with Scotty. And these are like, if you're locking Scotty, this is kind of the range that you don't want to do well, just because like you're not going to have a lot of Scotty plus these guys combos.
Snyder?
Yeah, I'm right there with him. I probably won't get the Tommy Fleetwood there. I think he's priced too high with Scotty there. Just don't really want him in my pool for his top 20 that he'll probably get there. But I think Berger is the best play. I've been waiting for Berger to kind of break out for the win. We were close there at the Heritage. He's definitely my favorite guy aside from Scotty, and I'll be playing him with Scotty over on the other side. He's hitting just over 65% of his fairways, over 70% of his greens. He just needs that putter to show up. There's always one or two rounds where he just putts absolutely horrible, and it kind of takes him out of it. But if he can kind of get that roll, and I really like him. Spieth in Texas is always a thing. I just don't see myself getting to him. I prefer English and Rye over Spieth. English has been playing great. He played great over the weekend last week. He was T12 here in 23 and comes off a T2, a T11, and a T12 in his last three big events. Two of those were majors, and another one was an elevated event. So I really like Harris English on the setup here as well as Rye. This would be a good course fit for his game as well. I think he's a good bet to finish T20 or better. So it'd be, aside from Scotty, I'm going to be playing Berger and then English and Rye.
I just want to talk about this. Snyder, your tan looks fabulous. I agree with Wiley. But I am in the same boat. I think Daniel Berger is absolutely the best play in this range. On DraftKings, I'm playing him about 20%, him and Spieth both. Past those guys, I like Harris English in 9,200. The way you talked about, he's been crushing the final round last week. He murdered to get up into the, I guess he finished T2, right?
Yeah.
But past those three, who I think that those are the obvious choices. Aaron Rye, who you spoke on, Fleetwood obviously will go under owned because nobody's going to take him with his odds and based on Scheffler being 13,700. But then McNeely and Hideki and Poston, I think that you can get a substantial advantage by playing them in the high single digits, because I don't think they're going to come in that high. I think they're going to come in really, 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 really fucking low, like 5 or less. So you may be able to get an advantage just playing them small. We'll move into the next range now. We'll go 89. I guess there aren't that many guys, so let's just go full 8K range. See what came down to Harry Hall. Snyder, who do you love in this range? Who do you hate? How are you feeling about it?
I think there's a couple options in this range that I like. I mean, Siwoo is always good for GPPs, but the putters really let down Davis Thompson over the last three events, so I probably won't get to him as much. You got Davis Riley, who's made 9 of his last 10 cuts. 3 of those have been top 10s or better.
Defending winner.
Yeah, defending winner. He kind of sun ran last week at the PGA Championship as well. He gained over 5 strokes putting and then 4.5 with the ball strike. And he won this event last year, like you said. He was also T4 in 22 here. So I think Davis Riley is a really good option in this range. The course fit should set up really well for Harman. He's off back-to-back top 30s here as well. Andrew Novak's another guy I really like. MC last week, due to just a horrible round 2 where he lost right around 7.5 strokes total in his second round. last week. Just one of the worst rounds he's had all year. But he has elite upside, as we've seen in these weaker type field events. So I really like him to bounce back this week. So I'm going to have Novak. Glover, this should be a good course fit for Glover as well. And then my guy Harry Hall with his little fancy little hat. I think he's going to come through here. He was first-round leader and finished T3 at this event in 23. Strong recent form heading in as well. I think his game really sets up well, as we saw back in 23 here. So Harry Hall is another guy I'll be high on in this AK range.
Right.
I think this is like much more of a preferable range to attack if you're playing Scotty in all your teams. Like, you can anchor your team with one of these guys and you have like 7K left, a little bit under, depending on like how high or low you go here. So I'm not going to get as much of these guys as like the 7K guys, just, because you can only kind of play one. You can't really play like Scotty and two of these guys. But I think it's a decent way to start your teams. I have 2 out of my 3 teams in the high stakes are anchoring with a guy in this range. So I think it's a decent build. To get into the specific plays, I mean, Siwoo always has some upside. I definitely want a bit of him. Davis Thompson, not really as interested in him and Griffin as I am in Davis Riley. You laid out the case for Riley, and I think he's a very strong option here. I think he has a decent upside, and his floor has been surprisingly good. But next time you say that about a golfer, he'll probably miss the cut. So I'm going to refrain from touting that angle too hard. I think this type of course that Harman can do well at. He's not really my favorite play here. I
think the wind will be helpful.
Yeah. I mean, Harman definitely wants the course playing a little harder like that. Like if it's like kind of a flat track bully type of situation. I like Akshay. He can pile up birdies in a bunch. I think Novak's a decent play. He's been playing really good golf, and 8,200 is very reasonable for him. Guys I'm not really on here are Griffin and Novak. Or sorry, I like Novak and Glover.
I've got similar opinions to the other two. I think Siwoo Kim 8,900. I mean, obviously he played really well last week and then kind of choked to the end. These types of events, he always tends to do well, where it plays a little harder, just because I think he's a guy who is very talented, but tends to lose focus a little bit, and that's probably why he drinks 5 Red Bulls a day. And so I think that this is a good course for him. Davis Thompson, not interested. Ben Griffin, not interested. Davis Riley, I think is a good play. Obviously, based on how he played last week and the fact that he won the tournament last year, definitely going to have some Davis Riley. Brian Harman, I like because of the potential weather situation and it being a little more of a difficult tournament. JJ Spawn, decent play. Not really playing Michael Kim. Andrew Novak, I will have a good amount of. Lucas Glover, I will have some, but the lower half of this angle surrounds Badia and Harry Hall, who I think are the best 2 plays in this range. So I really like Akshay, Badia, and Harry Hall. We'll move now into we'll go 7,900 to 7,500 just to cut it off here a little bit, from Mackenzie Hughes down to Christian Bezadenhout. Snyder, who do you like here? And who do you hate other than Zalatoris, who withdrew?
Bill Z, rough scene for him. But Gerard is a guy I'll be playing again. I've been playing him the past couple of months. He's got 4 finishes of T12 or better in his last 7 events. He's been a really good high upside play for us over the last couple of months. Bud Cauley he's been really good with the putter, but struggled last week. I like him to bounce back. He was one of the soldiers that basically just completely died over the weekend. I think he might have shot like 13 over or something. I don't remember, but he really struggled over the weekend, but I like him to bounce back here. Alex Smalley is probably one of my favorite options down in this range. He's hit nearly 70% of his fairways in the last 36 rounds. He's gaining over a stroke tee to green in those last 36 rounds as well. The form is great to begin the year, and it's kind of rounding back into form as well. So Smalley, top play for me down there. I will be on some Bezadenhout too. I think he's popping in a few models that I ran. Has some good finishes here as well. T21 or better in his last 3 stops at this event. The form isn't the greatest heading in, but that should kind of keep his ownership down a little bit. But I think something on this course kind of fits his eye. So I'll have some Bez there. And then Taylor Moore is another guy I think is a really good value down here. Was great to begin the year. Kind of hit a little rough patch there about a month ago or so, but now he's off back-to-back top 25s for the T19 last week at the major, and he gained over 8 strokes tee to green last week. So I think Smalley is probably my favorite, Taylor Moore, and then Gerard would be my top 3 guys in this range.
Right.
Yeah, this is the range I really start to hit kind of hard in my builds in terms of like ownership. We can start it off here. I think Gerard's a very strong play at 7,900. I prefer him to Mac Hughes and Bud Cauley. Obviously, you're not playing Will Zalatoris. I think Smalley is probably my favorite in this range. I definitely agree with Snyder there. I think he's a pretty solid play. Thorbjorn Olesen have around 10%. I think he's decent. You know, nothing like I'm really gonna like hammer home, but he's playable here. Grazerman and Tom Kim, I'd probably prefer Tom Kim. Like, I'm not a Tom Kim guy, but, you know, he's priced down here this cheap and so weak of a field. I think he can get there at 7,600. The 7,500 range, I think, is very strong. Moore and Bezadenhout are some of my favorite plays. I think Sam Stevens is in play as well. This is kind of like the sweet spot for me, and they're 2 of my higher own golfers along with Smalley in this range. And you can this is where you're really like getting like your secondary type of players when in your Scotty builds.
Yeah, I disagree with you guys at the top. I think Mac Hughes is a better play than Gerard and Bud Cauley. Other than last week where he completely imploded, he, was in the playoff the week before and has been playing well as a general statement. The best play in this range, though, I agree, Alex Smalley, 7,700. I have the most of him. I think that is where you kind of want to live, is a little lower than Mac Hughes and Gerard. That 200 salary difference, I know it seems like it doesn't make as big of a difference, but it really does. Thorbjorn Olesen played well last week and the week before and the week before. He's kind of been, it seems like he's regained his form after, the whole being arrested for being a groper thing. But after that, I do like Taylor Moore and Christian Bezadenhout at 7,500. I think they're both very, very good plays. Sam Stevens, a decent play. But other than that, Kurt Kitayama, 7,600. All these guys I have around 10%. I think they're all playable. Somebody in the chat said you can't play them all. You absolutely can fucking play them all. So I'm going to play them all. And from there, we'll go to the next segment, 7,400 down to 7K. So we'll go from Jacob Bridgman to Chris Goddard. Bryce, we'll start with you this time. How are you vibing on this range? I assume you're living here based on what's going on with Scheffler. What do you like?
I think it's kind of hard not to. This is a pretty hefty range of golfers here, so I'm just going to kind of go down one by one here. Starting at 7,400, Jacob Bridgman. I like him a ton. I think he's one of the best plays, if not the best play in the range. I probably prefer the slightly lower 7,000s, but I think Bridgman's very solid. Hoagie, I think, has upside, decent play here. Same thing with you. Griot, I don't have a lot of. Eric Cole, I do like here. I like him a good amount, actually. I definitely want to be over the field on him, and he kind of seems like the chalk to me in this range a bit. So, like, I don't know, just like if you're playing teams with like Scotty and super chalky guys, maybe just like leave a little bit of salary is one way to get different, or just like play like a super weird guy so you're not getting duped. After Cole, I don't really like Fowler or Woodland. It's kind of like washed up older guys to me. Lee Hodges, Jake Knapp, guys I'm not getting a ton of. I am getting a lot of Cam Davis.
Always.
I always play a lot of Cam Davis. I think he DraftKings scores really well and just kind of goes under owned pretty much every week. So that's kind of like a long-term stance that I've had, probably for like a year now. But it's been a pretty big Cam Davis run for me. McCarty, Wallace, Kirk, Vegas, I think are all decent plays. Cootie, I think, is one of the worst plays in this range, and I don't think there's a lot of bad plays in this range. Hisatune, I think, is pretty strong this week. I don't normally tout like guys like him in general, but he's been playing very solid golf, and I think he has upside to like top 5 here. Eckroat, I think, is a very strong play. Gim, I like him a bit. P-Raj, I'm not a P-Raj guy in general. I got bamboozled into playing some of him at the PGA last week and instantly regretted it. Rico Hoey, he always seems like he has upside. I never really play him much. I just don't think he's that great. Same thing with Toasty. The 7K flat, I really like. Echeverria, I think, is one of the best plays on the board here, like dollar for dollar. Joe Highsmith is a guy RPS has been on him pretty much all year. He's cooled off a bit, but this is the type of field that he can excel in here. And then my new favorite golfer.
Last week.
Yeah, he did. My new favorite golfer is Michael Thorbjornsen. I think this kid's pretty good, and he's been underpriced pretty much every week by DraftKings. So I'm going to continue to hop on that. Power, Hubbard, Goddard, all playable. I would prefer Power slightly out of that group.
Mitch?
Yeah, I think this is a great range here for some huge upside when you're pairing a lot of these guys up with Scotty. So I'll be having a ton of these guys, overweight on a bunch of these guys. Grillo is fine down here. He won this event 2 years ago. He's made 4 of the last 5 cuts, with 3 finishes of T22 or better. I think he's strong. Bridgman has that great upside like Bryce talked about. Kevin Yu hits greens at a higher rate. He's been finding fairways well last 36 rounds too. I think he's good here. Hoagie is a great ball striker. Could pop here if he can get off the tee well enough. He's kind of been struggling getting off the tee a little bit this year, but he's fine. I think Eric Cole is one of the better plays on the board this week as well. He's made 7 of his last 8 cuts. He was T5 at the Byron Nelson here in Texas, T15 at the Houston Open. And the putters kind of came alive for him as well as of late. So Eric Cole is a guy I'll be pretty high on. Lee Hodges has some horrible recent form coming in. Missed his last 5 cuts, but the course history here is great for him. He finds fairways at a high clip in greens as well, which finding fairways is huge this week. It's one of the biggest edges on tour for an event is finding the fairway here this week. So that should fit his eye. Fowler and Davis, both solid upside tournament plays. I think Johnny Vegas might be a guy that could get steamed up a little bit with his last 2 finishes there. T5 last week, T13 at the Byron Nelson, but he's one of the worst at finding fairways off the tee over the last 36 rounds, hitting the fairway at about only a 48% rate. So he could be a guy that could get off if he gets any steam, but I think he's fine if he doesn't. Matt McCarty, another guy I've been playing a ton of the last few months. He's gaining across the board last 36 rounds, finished T20 or better in 4 of his last 7 events. Byron Nelson, Masters, Valspar, Players Championship, all those pretty big events he's finished inside the top 20. So I like McCarty's upside here. The putter's kind of been up and down for him, but the the approach play has been solid this whole time. I actually don't mind Pearson Coody this week. He was T5 here last year, hits fairways and greens at a high clip. He's been playing well at some of these weaker type field events. I know a couple of them were on the Korn Ferry Tour, but he was T25 at the Byron Nelson. I think he's fine. Some other guys down here with some upside. Eckroat was top 20 here once. Doug Gims been top 20 here once. Rico Huey's a guy that finds fairways and greens at a high clip, and he's shown that upside with a T7 at Myrtle Beach, and he was T12 at the Punta Cana on a couple of weaker type field events like this. I think he's fine. Rio Hisatune will probably get a decent amount of ownership, I think, down here. He's got good reason for him. So I think he'll get a little bit talked up. Chris Gotterup is an Oklahoma guy. Soldier this week, 4 straight top 20s, and 5 of his last 6 are inside the top 20. So I like Chris Gotterup at 7K flat. Theo Bornson, like Bryce talked up, former Soldier. I think he's a strong play. Nico, yeah, a lot of these guys are really strong plays with some pretty high upside. You'll see some of these guys inside the top 10, I think, come Sunday.
I agree. I think this is the best range on the board, especially if you're hammering Scotty. 2 of my 3 core plays, other than Scotty, are in this range. First off would be Eric Cole. Obviously, I fucking hate Eric Cole, as does everybody, because he's a terrorist. But this week I think that Eric Cole is a very, very, very good play at 7,300. This is exactly the type of event that he decides he's going to fucking nut on. So I'm in on Eric Cole. The next one, Michael Thor Bjornsson at 7K, as Bryce alluded to. An elite play. I really love this play. He came in with a lot of hype, and I feel like he hasn't lived up to it, but he's starting to get there. Last week he played pretty well. Like, he's starting to get there, and I think this might be the beginning of a real turn for him. Beyond him, Nico Echevarria, 7K. Really love him as a play. Joe Highsmith, Bryce mentioned it. Great play. And then other plays in this range, Jacob Bridgman up at 7,400. It's a little harder to get to him, but obviously, that's what happens when a guy plays well over an extended period of time. And then Cam Davis, always Cam Davis. So he would be the next one. And as Snyder mentioned, Rio Hisatsune, he's been crushing. It's like every week he's top 10. It makes no sense. But, kind of got to ride the wave, right? I can't. I don't want to be short on him. I don't want to get cooked by Rio Hisatsune. So I'll have him a substantial amount in this tournament. We'll go down to the next range. We'll go to 6K to the bottom. Snyder, we'll start with you. How do you feel about the dregs? And are you playing them at all? I mean, I'm sure you are because of Scotty, but who do you like best?
Yeah, there's some guys down here they're fine. Like Ricky Castillo showing some upside in some of these weaker type field events. He was T5 here in Texas at the Byron Nelson, T18 in that team event. He's got some decent finishes. Sammy Valimaki is a guy we've been on in some of these weaker type field events. He was T20 at the Heritage, T12 at the Texas Open, and T7 at Myrtle Beach. I think he's fine. Mac Messier was T5 here last year. Upside play. I think Matt Kuchar is fine. He was top 20 here last year. He kind of feeds on these weaker type field events to kind of feed the bankroll for the year. He hits the fairway too at a pretty high clip, so I think he's fine. Andrew Putnam's probably one of my favorite plays down here. He's got a couple good recent finishes here, and he was T15 at the Byron Nelson, T26 at the Punta Cana. He made the cut at the Myrtle Beach, but didn't really do too much there. Bo Hostler in Texas, although every time I play Bo Hostler in Texas, it feels like he kind of lets me down. He was T65 at the Byron Nelson, missed the cut at the Houston Open, T60 at the Texas Open, but he has a T21 here a couple years ago, so he's fine. Chandler Phillips is a really high upside guy. I've been playing a lot of in the 6Ks, has some pretty elite finishes. He was T12 here last year. T15 at the Byron Nelson, T10 in that team event, T18 at the Texas Open. I think he's a high upside player. EVR, high upside play. He was T2 at the Byron Nelson. Matty Schmidt's another guy. He's coming off of 2 T10s in his last 3 events. Upside, both of those were week type events as well. Max McGreevy, Vince Whaley. He's strung together 4 solid finishes. He was T7 at the Punta Cana, T15 at the Byron Nelson. Has a T20 here a few years ago in 21. I think he's fine down here. Chad Ramey's fine. Stephen Fisk is another guy who was T13 at the Myrtle Beach, T24 in that team event. Top 40 at the Texas Open. I think he's fine down here. Couple other guys. Trey Mullinax, you can have in the pool at 6,500. Brian Campbell, he's kind of been getting the guy talked up. I think Campbell will probably be the highest owned guy in the 6K range, it sounds like, from around other sources in the industry. Finds a fairway at a high clip, short off the tee, which should fit his eye at this course. Good recent form, too. He's been making cuts. He made the cut last week at the PGA Championship. He was T34 at the Truist, T32 at the Heritage. So he's been doing all right. He was T32 at the Masters, too. So some big-time filled events. He's been making the cut and playing all right. So I think he's definitely fine here. And then Danny Walker is another guy near the bottom here, 6,400. 4 straight events, T35 or better for him. So I think he's fine down here as well.
Bryce?
And it's kind of a lot to handle down here because I'm dumpster diving a lot more than I normally do with the Scotty lock. So I'll do my best for you guys here to give you a good representation of what I like.
Oh, you're a representation guy now.
I mean, after Tottenham wins, anything's possible. So I like the lower end of this range a little bit more than the high. Like, I think you're getting kind of a big drop-off between these 7K guys that Snyder and I like and below. That being said, I don't think Val Malky's a bad play. Svensson, Castillo are all decent. Sam Ryder, I think, is decent. Kuchar, you can always make a case for. Putnam's by far my favorite guy in this range here. You know, he would be, $500 to $1,000 too cheap. Like, I would see him like mid to high 7s, and I think that's pretty significant when you're trying to jam in an almost $14,000 golfer. So he makes a lot of sense to me. He would be my preferred punt in like single entry and stuff, and then with Scotty, and then kind of choose like your 7K guys. But it's going to be a somewhat popular route, so I would make sure to get a little different in those combos. I think that's going to be a super popular pairing. Chandler Phillips, EVR, McGreevy, Schmidt, Hostler. I all have my pool around 5% on some of these guys. Like, when you're locking a golfer, you can get pretty wide, like elsewhere, like, because you're getting so narrow at the top. Like, you want to give yourself as many outs with him to win as possible. Like, otherwise, like, if you're playing it so narrow, like, you would just be betting Scotty to win as opposed to like betting him to win with like all types of different upsides. So I like to give myself a lot of outs down here. Joel Damon, I think, is one of the better plays in this range, 6'6". Svensson, Chan Kim, I'm willing to take chances on. Stephen Fisk, I think, is okay. David Ford, Kevin Roy, I don't want anything to do with. Kanaya, I think, is one of the better plays here at 6,500. Not to get into the whole Japanese thing too much, but he kind of seems like a slightly worse Hisatune to me. Just like guy that not a lot of people know that's just been playing really good golf. I think the only people on tour or who watch it that like them are DFS players. So hopefully they can do it for the brand this week. I like him a good amount. Fishburne, Carson Young, I think are playable for sure. Schenk, I think, is playable. And then are we going into like the absolute punts here, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
okay.
We're going into the toilet.
I don't have tons of absolute toilet guys here, but I think Brian Campbell's too cheap at 6,400, and I'm not a Brian Campbell guy. he's
He hits
played
it
really
straight.
well.
Listen, he hits it straight.
Yeah, I mean, all you're looking for at this range is just a guy who's going to make the cut, and he's actually shown some upside this year. He's not an exciting golfer by any means, but he's a name that you're going to be seeing on tour. So, he's been close to min price at a lot of events. I don't normally get to guys like him, but I think this is a good week to do it. I think that's about the lowest I'd go with any confidence here. I think the cheapest guy I got in my pool, because I always get asked this question, is Will Gordon at 6,100. I wouldn't necessarily recommend him a ton, but I have him like 1%. Ventura, Liz, Dylan Wu, Grayson Sigg, Nate Lashley, and Carl Phillips kind of round out where I go here. I also have a bit of Cummins and Walker, but I would really try and stay in the Brian Campbell and above range, and not get down into like any straight up 6K guys. Binks the Cat says more Stevens or Hisatune.
More.
I mean, I have a little more Hisatune than more like ownership wise, but he's also much cheaper. I would rank them more Hisatune than Stevens.
All right, I'll get into the dregs here for myself. Number one play in this range for me is, as Bryce alluded to, Takumi Kanaya at 6,500. I think that he's way underpriced. He should be up there at about 7K. So you're getting a significant price discount on him here. Next, Andrew Putnam, who I think will be mega chalky at 6,700. Another guy that will play fine in the wind because he doesn't fucking get it far and he can putt well and chip well. Next, Max McGreevy, 6,700. Same logic. I think that he'll be able to manage in the poor wind. Beyond that, I'm not getting a ton of these guys. I'm much higher in the range above it. But as Bryce said, Brian Campbell, 6,400, way too cheap considering the course and the way that the tournament is going to go. I think that if you need somebody who sucks, he is the person at 6,400. Now we'll go into my personal favorite segment, which is the Pick Six, sponsored by DraftKings, DKNG.co/RPS. We're a DK partner, so help us out with that. Here we go. Let me share my screen.
I just noticed I got a bonus pick in there. That's always good
to
see.
Oh, you got a bonus pick. What you got? I'm fucking up here.
What do we got this week?
There we go.
There's make the cut and finishing positions.
Yes, we got finishing position and holes completed. So as Snyder referenced. So we'll start with Snyder. What do you think? What's your favorite pick six pick this week?
I'm gonna go Davis Riley, better than 28.5.
Davis Riley, better than 28.5, Bryce?
I like that a lot. Let me see. Who else did I like this week? God. I'm going to go with Aaron Rye, better than 23.5. I think he's playing really good golf right now.
All right. I'm going with Harmon, better than 27.5. And then we'll snake it. I'll go with Danny Walker, more than 36.5 holes completed. Bryce, what you got?
I'm going to go with David Ford, under 36 holes completed, 36.5. I don't think he makes the cut.
Snyder?
Let's go. Did either of you take Aaron Rye?
Yeah.
I did take Rye.
I figured. Let's go. JT Poston, better than 23.5.
All right, that's 10 to win at least 15 to 1. Pick submitted. Davis Riley, better than 28.5. Harmon, better than 27.5. Ford does not make the cut. Rye, better than 23.5. Walker does make the cut. Poston, better than 23.5. And wins you at least 15 to 1 on DraftKings. I will post that later on Twitter. DraftKings Pick 6, sponsor of the program. Love you guys. Let me get back to the there we go. Any final thoughts on the tournament? Any futures bets? Snyder, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't mind Berger 18 to 1 in the without Scotty market, and Davis Riley at 35 to 1 on DraftKings, the partner. That's fine, and there's quite a few top 40s I actually like in this event. I bet Eric Cole, Eric Smalley, Taylor Moore, Andrew Putnam, and Rio Hisatune, top 40.
Love that. Bryce?
Can you go real quick? I did deal with Mateo real quick.
Oh, well, I will go real quick. I bet Scotty Scheffler plus 240 to win the tournament on DraftKings.
All right, I love that.
Yeah, that's a good
I'm also pulling up the.
I was actually looking for alt lines earlier, but I couldn't find any.
Yeah, I was looking for. We did this at. I think it was the first week we did the show. The winner without Scotty Scheffler.
Oh yeah.
Markets. I like Aaron Rye 25 to 1. I think going off the pick 6, I like that. I like him a lot. Davis Riley, I like as well. 40 to 1 winner without Scotty, and I'm going to throw one more in there. I like Batia, 50 to 1 without Scotty.
There we go. Anything else you want to say to our viewers, Mitchell?
I think that's about it. We'll have showdown content up every round as well. Rounds 1 through 4, have it up. Showdown playbook with some notes in there, player rankings, and core plays from 3 to 4 guys in there.
Bryce?
Go Scotty.
Yeah, go Scotty. All right, guys. Fuck off. Goodbye.